Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new live stream. Excuse me. Hope you're all having a good day. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Joby, my friend, good to see you. Silva, Khalid, good to see you, brother. Bushman, good to see you as well. Richie, good to see you. T13, Bean, Complete, good to see you. Merkel, Cool Guy, Crypto, good to see everyone in the chat. Rana, BNB, Cookie Monster, good to see everyone. The first question I see is OM Rugged. Yeah, so I was trading this yesterday. I was shorting the shit out of this yesterday just because of how bad it was. And I continued to short it yesterday, made a little bit more money. But this is likely to dump even further. Maybe, the team came out and said that it was forced liquidations, but there's some truth to it. There was quite a bit of liquidation. But before, a day before the actual pump, what actually happened was the team was moving millions of dollars onto exchanges, and that kind of worried everyone. And I don't know if they were dumping or not. It's hard to say because the exchange, you can't really know what the exchanges are doing or what activity is happening on the exchanges. But you can clearly see that a day before this happened, they was moving a lot of tokens onto OKX and Binance. So, this is I think this is a scam. Is a very obvious scam because if you look at the market cap, despite what it is now, the market cap at one point was $6 billion, but the TVL, the total value locked, was only 4 million and is now come down to 3.2. So if you look at the market cap, it's like 100x difference, probably more, 1,000x difference even. So it is definitely a scam because they don't have any assets tokenized. The team held 90% of the supply, which means the reason this wasn't dumping when everything was dumping and it was just stable, slowly rising, and then just holding really strong was because the team held a majority of the supply. And then when that scare happened, this is not forced liquidations. 10% of the supply cannot cause this much damage. There was definitely some, selling from the team. It's very, very obvious. Apparently, some of the team members were selling the tokens over the counter to random investors, and this is what caused, I would say, a majority of the dump. And it was a lot of panic. And this is why, if you're like in a group, like you have a private group, you have to be very careful. When you, for example, if you hold a low cap project that does not have enough volume, and if I give a sell alert and 300 people after me all sell at the same time, and maybe 100 of those guys, maybe 50 of those guys will spam market sells, this is what could happen to a project. This is what the concept of a chain reaction happens, and this happened to this project. The big whale got liquidated, and then everyone started panic selling because all the FUD was running around. The team was selling tokens over the counter. They moved money into Binance, and because of that, it just led to a chain reaction where this lost, from 6 billion down to 500 million. At the lows, it was even lower than this, around 300 million. It turned into a low cap from being the highest RWA project to becoming a mid cap in the space of one day. This is why you have to be careful how you sell your tokens, because what you'll do is you'll just FUD your own bags. So, one thing you should never ever do is spam market buys or market sells, because when you market sell, another person will panic, he'll market sell, and it leads to a chain reaction. So you have to be very careful. But this project is 100% a scam. I don't recommend anyone trying to FOMO in now thinking you caught the dip on this. The team said it's forced liquidations, but it's a bullshit. You can't go from $6 billion in market cap, down 10x in the space of one day and say it's forced liquidations. That's simply not true. All the people that's promoting this now are the people that got caught with their pants down, and now they're down 30, 40, 50, 100% on the investment, 90% on the investment, and now they're just trying to do anything they can to help their bags. But this was a very good short. I shorted this, then I longed it, and I shorted it again, and it made me some pretty decent money. Short when the team announces that, when they actually announce what happened, you go long. This is what happens when they announce the tweet. There is forced liquidations. Everyone got happy, pumped it up to 3x almost from the lows, and then after that, people start to realize it's all bullshit and it just continues to go back down. Now the market itself, let me open up my my trading view. We are looking bullish overall. I think plenty of people had the offer on thingy. Plenty of people had the chances to buy over here when Bitcoin was all the way back. Why am I in the 1 minute time frame? 1 second. We had plenty of opportunities to purchase Bitcoin over here at 70, 76. Then we had a double bottom at 74K. I think the likely chance is we will most likely continue higher, maybe as high as 90K in the short term. If Bitcoin can hold above 88.5K, then we can continue to go higher. But there's, the liquidation levels at the moment are either 79K or 90K. So we grabbed the liquidity at 84K just earlier down here. Now, Bitcoin most likely will trend higher. It all depends on what Trump does. He was speaking today, but luckily he didn't say anything crazy to spook the markets. But we have had quite a few bullish news in terms of, the EU coming forward to negotiate a new trade deal. That's very bullish for the markets. We've also had NVIDIA announcing 500 billion investment plan to build and expand AI infrastructure in the US. This is all very, very bullish. This is what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to cut GDP from the government side through Doge, but also bring in enough money, from other big companies from the private sector to increase GDP. That way, could be from bringing more jobs in, increase, more jobs, create more opportunities, more spending, GDP goes up. So that's a good sign. We've also had the Fed saying that Fed must remain flexible, which means that they're open to rate cuts. They don't want to be too over restrictive, and this is evident by inflation, true inflation numbers, which is at 1.3%. So the Fed is being overly restrictive, but they have come out and said that they are more flexible now to actually cut rates, most likely in June. Could happen in May, but at the moment is looking unlikely. We've also had, the SEC actually delay the Ethereum ETFs. So this is, although this is it's not a guaranteed no, but they have delayed it, which means Ethereum's not really going to go anywhere in the short term. I think once staking for Ethereum actually goes live, a lot more institutions will be, they will be more incentivized to actually purchase Ethereum. At the moment, there's no incentive. Ethereum doesn't really offer anything for institutions. However, staking is something that institutions do like a lot. So once this goes live, I think they're delaying this on purpose. When Fed starts, ends QT, you're going to see a lot of this happening at the same time because everything is just kind of manufactured. The market's kind of manufactured, and it's like a weird algorithm that when the market's supposed to go up, some bullish news will come out of nowhere, or when the market's supposed to go down, some bearish news will come out. That's how I look at it, at least. We've also had a Swedish MP call for national strategic Bitcoin reserve. So we're definitely going to see more countries potentially fall more into Bitcoin as the US, is the first mover into actually building a crypto reserve. We're going to see more and more countries do it. NVIDIA also manufactures AI superpower in the US for the first time. This is very good. This could be a potential quantum computing narrative because some supercomputers go hand in hand with quantum computers. However, it's still too early for the average person to get access or they get their hands on a supercomputer. So the narrative is premature, but I do think next cycle the quantum narrative will potentially pick back up. We've also had the Fed saying that they have tools to provide liquidity for the markets. They actually did $2 billion or $2 trillion stealth QE recently, which is, I think, that's basically what stabilized the markets. I don't think it's because of all the bullish news. I think that the $2 trillion injected in the liquidity in the markets, I think that stabilized the stock market and the crypto market. Hit the likes, guys. Hit the likes, indeed. Press the button, algorithm waiting. Appreciate that, my friend. Blasting out across the roof while you're working. Good to see you, Brian, my friend. Thoughts on Mind Network? It's a competitor of DEAI. However, I do think it's a better investment than DEAI, but it's a weird project because the chart looks a little bit too good. If you look at the chart looks a lot, it held up really well, and then it had this very good pump. But when this came out, they didn't barely dump. I mean, if you come out, to be fair, it just released. I don't really like buying projects when they just come out, just because of the fact that depending on the vesting schedule, which we can have a look at, depending on the vesting schedule, a lot of projects they come out, they stabilize for a little bit, and then they tend to pump. And then on that pump, a lot of people FOMO into the project, thinking it's just going to continuously rally. But the reality is it doesn't oftentimes do that. Very few projects, actually just continue to rally like Ondo did. But majority of projects, nothing's going to be as good as Ondo that we're going to see release for a while. But we can see that the investors tokens are locked up for 1 year. The team tokens are locked up for 1 year. The treasuries is also locked up for 1 year. That's good. Public sale, airdrop, these are going to be done pretty much they already got 100% TGE. So these are done. Binance Wallet is done. It's just the community tokens that's going to be releasing. So the vesting schedule for this is actually pretty good in my opinion. Yeah, there's fuck all dilution. This is not a bad project overall, my friend. There's literally barely any dilution. There's only community tokens being released. So that's why this has pumped, because the vesting schedule is really, really good. This is one of those encryption projects, isn't it? Yeah, it is encryption, yeah. Yeah, this is a pretty good project here, I would say overall. Binance backed, Chainlink, Hashkey, Amenico brand. They've also had all these other ventures, also backing them. Yeah, this is a pretty good project overall, I would say. I don't know if the team is doxed or not, but it looks like a pretty good project overall. Use case, news, citizen, doc. Yeah, you're going to have to find out if the team's doxed or not, but this is a good project overall, yes. It's a competitor of DEAI. Is OM dump a bear market sign? This usually happens in a bear market. Not really. I mean, you're going to see if a project rugs every day, does that mean it's a bear market? I don't really think so, no, my friend. Projects rug because the team either gets greedy. If you start seeing a chain of rugs across the board, where you see, every couple of weeks you see a project rugging, that's when it's a bear market. When one project rugs randomly, out of weeks, rugging in crypto is normal now, because meme coins have been, the main topic for the last year and a half. You see rugs every day, so it's become a norm. We haven't seen many utility rugs in a while, and because this was the first one in a very long time, and it's not fully rugged. A rug pool means that if pool of liquidity, no, it's not tradable. You can get massive 90% drops. It doesn't mean it's rugged. It just means that someone's dumped a large amount of money. But when something's rugged, it means no one can trade it anymore. The liquidity is being pulled. That's what a rug pool means. But no, I don't think so. No, this is the first rug I've seen in a while in terms of the utility side. Curious to think RWA will take a hit. I mean, Silver, that's a valid point, but then the thing is like you have to differentiate a good RWA project compared to, the Mantra or OM was a rebranded project. It never began as an RWA project. They rebranded into RWA. So, a lot of these RWA projects been RWA for a long time. They for years, way before in 2020, 2022, they've built up the project and then they released it. OM was something else, and then later down the line, sometime in 2023, I think it was, they changed everything and just switched to RWA because that was the upcoming narrative. That's why they have zero assets tokenized. They don't have no on-chain proof that they've tokenized anything. If you look at my RWA projects, Bricken, they have over 200 or 300 million tokenized. This is all proven on chain. ATR has hundreds of assets tokenized. It's all proven. You can see it. Propbase has 2 assets tokenized. That's also proven because people have invested into those assets. So, you have to look for on-chain proof of these purchases. When they're buying a property and they're tokenizing it, there has to be proof. Otherwise, you're just trusting the team that says they've purchased this. It could all just be bullshit. So we have to be very careful with RWA. because it's like there's no proof or ever. You can't go to the bank and say I own 10% in this property because it's just on the blockchain. Whereas like a T-bill, you have a paper that tells you that you've lended money to the government and they're going to give you this much back. That's what RWAs are supposed to be, but with properties or with specific luxury items. You can't go to the bank and tell them that I own a fucking Rolex on the blockchain from Art Trade. You can't do that. So that's the difference. It comes to a bit of trust, but you also have to look at regulatory clarity from these companies and on-chain proof that they've actually purchased any of these products that they claim they have, because you can't go to the bank, like I said, and tell them I have a Rolex on Art Trade because I purchased it, or 10% of a Rolex. It doesn't work that way. So, and that's I do think it will affect the RWA narrative slightly, but I think it will fuel the other RWA projects because it's such a niche narrative and there's not a lot of tokens, and people still believe in the narrative because of how well the build for BlackRock is doing in terms of tokenizing assets. That continuously goes bigger and bigger. So one coin that's rebranded and has no assets tokenized does not define the entire RWA space. But it will affect it in the short term. But people in crypto have short-term memory, bro. In a couple of weeks, people will forget, and there'll be a new rock pool that everyone will talk about, or a new main topic that everyone will talk about. Probably something to do with Trump. Market has barely flinched. This ain't BTC or ETH. Yeah, that's facts. Yeah. Congratulations to the OAM holders. Ryzen, good to see you. How likely are we to have another dump before? So the only thing that can dump us moving forward is the Bank of Japan, which the numbers for the inflation numbers come out on the 18th of this month, and the rate hike decision is going to come out on the 30th of this month, so the end of this month. But you will know based on the inflation numbers if they're going to keep the interest rates the same or potentially hike it one more time. You will know based on the inflation numbers, because the head guy over there said, the prime minister, he said that if inflation continues to go higher, or if it continues to trend higher, then we have no choice but to increase our interest rates. And when the interest rates of Japan gets increased, you get unwind of the carry trade. There's trillions of dollars sitting in the carry trade. And what you will get is you'll get Bitcoin coming down, potentially, if it's at 90K, it will probably come down to the 75, 74, potentially maybe 72K a week, and then it will probably explode back up. Stocks may come down and put in a double bottom, if not a lower low, and then rally back up. It all depends on how much they hike, because if the consensus is they'll hike 0.5%, or 0.25, and then they hike 0.5%, or they go over the estimated, then the damage is going to be a lot greater than as it come in as predicted. It will still dump because the carry trade will still unwind a few days after the decision is made. I think the decision is going to be on a Saturday. So on Monday or Tuesday, you're going to see the market dump if they decide to increase the interest rates. So you have to keep that in mind, my friend. If it's more than the consensus is, or the forecast is, it's going to dump way more than you think. If it's expected, it will still dump, but it won't be as heavy. That is the only thing that can dump us pretty much in the short term, my friend. Anything else, we're looking good because all these other countries have come out and made a trade deal with the US. So the tariffs are not going to be increased. The only country that's fighting back is China. But I do think at some point them two will make a deal as well, because it's a self-sabotage for both of them. None of them win. The US basically controls 25% of global GDP, which means they are the biggest consumers for all these countries, which means most of their business, or majority of the business, comes from the US for all these countries that make specific goods. China is the manufacturer of the world, so a lot of their money does come from the US. So that obviously that affects them. The GDP will go down, less money for them. Same thing with America. The cost of living will go up. Well, not cost of living, but the cost of products will go up. It just taxes the average person a lot higher. It's a win. It's a lose-lose situation for both. It's just a bunch of ego fighting right now. Softly, it's good to see you, bro. Atif, Javid, good to see you. Atif, Javid, Kieran, good to see you. How much all will make me a millionaire? So all my predictions is, it will go to at least $500 million in market cap from the current space. So, I mean, if you look at it from a value perspective, this is extremely undervalued. A project that makes between $10 to $20 million a year profits should be valued a lot higher than 60 million. It should be way higher. But the thing is, until the AI narrative comes around, a majority of these AI projects will barely pump. They might just stabilize. They might go up 10%, 15% another day. They'll come down again. They will just be stagnant until the narrative comes around, because that's how crypto works. Crypto doesn't work in when Bitcoin goes up, everything goes up altogether, because there's not enough money to push the million tokens that's in the circulation. What will happen is it will get separated into narratives. So because we've had this massive investment in the AI infrastructure in the US, AI will always be a narrative. Google, Microsoft, Meta, what the fuck is called, Facebook, all of these companies are investing hundreds of millions into the AI narrative, which means that it will come back. All it takes is NVIDIA to release some crazy new AI tool that everyone starts talking about it. And based on the fact that everyone's talking about it, the crypto market will start pumping AI coins. That's basically how it works. So until that happens, at the moment, majority of AI coins are under the water. It's the best time to accumulate. You want to be buying them when they're dead. You don't want to wait for them to pump 40% and then you want to FOMO in, which is what a lot of people like to do. Alt pumped when the market was dumping. Over here, all through March, April, the market was dumping, but alt continued to rally. It pumped like 60 to 70% while the market was dumping. And then the market later caught on. But when the market caught on, alt went into price discovery mode because it pumped in advance. A lot of projects are catching up now on the pumps. Alt pumped in advance, held up really well on the dump. And, look, I'll show you a prime example of what I mean, right? This project in the last 30 days is up. Let's say, can we extend it to 60 days? I don't know if you can. But when I share this in the group, right? Aerodome, the last 60 days, it pumped 22% a few days ago, Aerodome. And then despite the fact that it pumped 22%, it still was, look how, this prime example, the last 30 days, this is one of the high caps, $1 billion market cap, was down 17%, 60%, 45%, I think it was, on the 60-day chart, whereas alt is still in the same range that it was, 30 days ago. In fact, it's 5% higher. So that's the difference. It held up really well. It pumped in advance, and then the market, decided to catch up with alt, and then alt went into consolidation mode or price discovery mode. But I do think everyone should aim to at least get between 50 to 100K alt. I think that's a good amount to have. Steve, good to see you, my friend. Rasyad, good to see you as well. Walaikum salam, bro. A co-worker had 200K in OEM, now worth 20K. I tried telling him to rotate his profits. Damn. That's crazy, that is, Izzy. Martin, it's good to see you from Leicester, yeah? That's not too far from where I am. That's the thing, is like, I don't blame people, especially when they're retail-minded. They get into Mantra early, so they put a decent amount of money in Mantra, and then they think, when they look at how well it held artificially, this was not because of of it just holding really well because no one wanted to sell. All it was it's just artificially market makers holding the price up, and people think so despite how bad Bitcoin has gone down, this has held well. When Bitcoin goes up, this is going to most likely break new all-time highs. That's what people think. But then what happened was instead it went down 90%. So once you've made a decent amount of money, you have to at least take your initials out. If you get a 5x, a 10x on a high cap, it's retarded not to at least take at least 60-70% out, because these high caps, they're high caps for a reason. They're not going to keep going on to do another 10x after it's at 6 billion. It's very unlikely. That's like one in a 1 in 100 will do that. Like a Solana did that, but most projects didn't do that. So if you got into this at like $200-300 million of market cap and you got over a 10x, it's stupid for you not to at least take 60-70% of that out. That's what happens when you get greedy. And I blame the person. You have to blame yourself at that point, because after making a 20x, a 15x on these high caps, you don't take out money, then you deserve to lose it. That's how it is. If anything, you should learn from that. A lot of crypto is a lot of learning, but you have to make the mistakes to learn. A prime example of why diversify is crazy. Glad I never bought into OM. Yeah, OM was a good project at one point, but after it's at fucking $6 billion of market cap, who's really gonna buy it? You've missed the boat on it. A lot of people like to jump on the bandwagon after the bandwagon's gone, and they want to make a 2x or 3x, or they think they're going to continuously go to the hundreds of billions. The reality is it's never going to do that. Ross, good to see you. How did OM get it's all bullshit, because none of it is genuine. This whole pump is just weird because they don't have any assets tokenized. They've just branched out to RWA like a fucking year ago. So it's not like they've actually done anything specific in that year. But they had that one partnership with the biggest real estate company in Dubai. And based on that partnership, they just managed to fucking pump this to the moon. This has more, this was a higher market cap than Ondo, which is very hard to believe compared to how good Ondo is compared to this shit. But you've been saying 50x, 100x the last 2 years. Question is, when is that going to happen? For the last 2 years, you're a clown. I've only been on YouTube for fucking 1 year now. So I don't know what you mean the last 2 years. What the fuck is this guy all about? It happens when alt season happens, bro. Alt season is not going to happen when the Fed is in QT. When QT stops, that's when. And the thing is, when I put a 50 to 100x, that's just clickbait, my friend. It does not mean the coins are actually going to do 50 to 100x. All it means is just for more people to fucking click on the video. It's just clickbait, my friend. But I don't know what you're talking about the last 2 years. I haven't even been on YouTube for the last 2 years, so I don't know what you're talking about, my friend. Appreciate that, Brit. Good to see you as well, buddy. I mean, it's not really up only. It's one of those markets where it highly depends on Trump. If Trump does not enforce tariffs, but I do think for the next 3 months, if Trump does not increase the tariffs, it's very likely that we are going to start pumping. Very, very likely. The likely chances of us going down is unlikely now, because we've had one drop over here, massive liquidation here. Then we went back down, had another liquidation, rallied back up, and then we just came back down, a couple of days after, double bottom, and now it looks like it's going to go up because it's well above the 50-day moving average. This is going to obviously potentially go higher. It could come down and maybe retest the 50-day moving average one more time, and if it holds it as support one more time again, then the market is just going to continually go up, because as long as you're above the 50-day moving average, then we are still in a bull market. Despite what altcoins are doing, despite what everything's doing, we are still in an alt market, in a bull market. Sorry. What do you think? How many BPTS the Fed will cut this year? I think they'll cut by 1 basis point. I think 1 basis point, just because of how how inflation is going deflationary. I think they have to cut, because unemployment is trending higher and inflation is coming down rapidly, which means that unemployment is going to continuously go higher. They're very correlated. When unemployment goes up, inflation comes down. When inflation goes up, unemployment comes down. They go hand in hand. Shinobi, good to see you, bro. How you been? Potentially the last dip before the last dip, and then depending on the yo, that's actually true, FOMC, I don't think will be that bad. I don't think FOMC moving forward is going to be hawkish. It's going to be dovish, because next month's print on inflation is going to come down even lower, according to Trueflation, which has been right so far for several months now. So it's very likely what we're going to see is we're going to see the Fed start to become more and more dovish, and they're going to go towards ending QT, possibly by June or July. I think in the next few months, Q2 will end. The market is going to have an absolutely crazy rally. And then in that rally, you have to take profits. You have to, because what's going to happen is to a bunch of people, and a lot of people, this is how majority of people is going to get trapped moving forward. You know, we are going towards a recession. It will happen in 2026, maybe early 2026, maybe Q2, maybe as early as late 2025. We don't know at the moment. But what's going to happen is the Fed is going to end QT, and people is going to think that's it. The market's just going to keep going up only forever. The reality is, you know, inflation is likely to get worse and worse towards the end of the year because we are going towards a deflationary pattern. You know, and they go hand in hand, as I said. A lot of people are going to get stuck in the mania phase when everyone's talking about 1,000x here, 100x here, Bitcoin's going to 1,000,000. When you start hearing stuff like that, exit the market, get a majority out, because when you start hearing a bunch of new people coming to crypto, you're hearing all these fucking influencers and all these guys on the news talking about Bitcoin going to 200k, 300k, 400k. It's never going to happen in one cycle. It will take multiple years for it to happen, and most people are going to get trapped again. You know, a lot of people say, I learned from December, as soon as I break even, I'm going to get out. The reality is no one's going to do that. They're going to go back into the same phase. Retail's mentality never changes. When the market's bearish, they get overly bearish. They start doom and gloom. They start flooding their own bags. And then when the market starts pumping again, they FOMO back in. It goes back down. Then, you know, they call it a scam again. It rallies. And then once we get a sufficient pump, all of those guys that capitulated, whatever USDT they have left, they will just put it back into the markets. You can use them as exit liquidity. And also, towards the end of the year, the market will rally. Once QT ends, everyone's going to get, you know, really, really bullish. But we have to exit the market because a recession is guaranteed to come. You know, and the best thing is, once the recession comes, the market will go into a bear market, maybe a year, maybe 6 months, maybe a year and a half. But what comes out of a recession is mass QE. We're going to get massive QE. So, you know, in the space of years to year, a lot of people will have the opportunity to make a lot of money, because in the recession, everything gets really cheap. You get everything pennies on the dollar. As long as you can exit the market on time and have plenty of USDT on the side, when the market goes to shits, you look at the projects that are developing throughout the bear market, you purchase them, because once QE comes, you can turn your brain off now and actually fucking buy anything, and it will pump 5x, 10x, 100x, 200x. You know, the time to actually fucking use your brain is in QT. Once QT comes to an end, guess what happens? The Fed might start QT towards a later stage for like a week, a couple of months, but then they're going to start QE again. And once QE comes, you can turn your brain off, buy anything, and you'll make stupid amounts of money, just like in 2020. That was a QE pump where people literally would purchase any coin that was out, and they would make a 5 to 10x, a 100x, a 50x. We've seen the exact same thing back in 2023. Projects were doing hundreds of X's. The next big pump will be a weak double top and then a bear market. No, I think we'll smash past the 110. I think we'll go to, I think 150K is on the cards, 100%. I will start exiting the market between 140 to 150K. You know, if Bitcoin stumbles for a bit and then dominance starts coming down, all coins will pump anyways. And then you have to start taking profits on the way up. You know, don't be one of those people that holds, you know, that's waiting for the 100x, the 50x's. The reality is the 50 to 100x's, the 200x's, all these crazy numbers that I made, you know, these were done in the bear market. It's very unlikely for you, very, very rare for you to actually make 120x, 150x, and 90x, you know, whatever. These type of numbers you can get in a bear market because you're buying everything pennies on the dollar. Coins go down 90% and then still go down another 99%. That's how the bear market works. So for like $10, you'll get fucking millions of tokens. Whereas that million token would have cost you 15, 20 grand in the bear market. That's the difference. That's how cheap you get these tokens. And then when the narrative comes, you can buy anything in the narrative with a pump. You know, Via is one of the shittiest AI projects. Oh shit. Via is not a good AI project, But because AI pumped, it rallied crazy amounts. It's not because Via is the best fucking AI coin in the world. It's not. It's terrible. But because AI became a trend, you have to catch the trends early. That's how you make money. Look at Audi. Audi is a terrible project, but I made a 30x on it because I managed to catch the BRC20 hype. And then now look at BRC20 is dead. So you can't marry to your bags thinking some of these narratives are going to continuously thrive throughout the cycle. Majority of them will die. Layer ones have been fucking dead. They did well in 2023, but look at them now. They're all dead. Only the high cap layer ones are doing well. The lower caps are just no one cares about them. Majority of them continuously gone down 90%. The majority of them have. Do I like Star Atlas? I don't like any gaming projects at the moment. I don't want to be focused on gaming. I want you guys to focus on AI and RWA. And then at some point, maybe sometime in the summer, gaming coins will become more attractive. At the moment, you look at the gaming narrative, it's completely dead. A lot of people said last year gaming projects were completely dead. Yes, there was, but they haven't really done anything. When the market pumped, gaming projects had like they had like 4 or 5 days of pumping when Sandbox and Metaverse started pumping. That kind of triggered a small little gaming pump, which lasted a few days. Some gaming coins done really well. OTK done like a 3x. Munity did like a fucking 6x, 5x. Naka did a decent pump, like a 2-3x. That was all that was there for gaming. Whereas AI coins done really well, RWA coins done really well. So the gaming narrative at the moment is weak, my friend. I wouldn't focus on gaming. I'd rather focus on RWA. That's continuously growing. The on-chain activity for RWA is massively growing. AI will always be there because these big companies are trying to, all these countries are fighting over developing AI. So therefore, is always going to be a narrative. A coin dipping like Sensei or when the entire market, that's actually a good thing. Holding too strong is kind of a red flag. That's also true, yeah. I mean, when the whole market is dumping and something isn't dumping like this, it means that these guys are artificially holding up the supply or holding up the price, because unless the team held fucking 95% or 90% of the supply like these guys did, this coin would have never held this well. It would have been down to like fucking $3-4, $2-3 naturally. But because they artificially held the price up because they held 90%, guess what happened? The red flags start forming. And because they have no assets tokenized, another red flag. Another project that a lot of people hype up is Red Belly. But then when I look at Red Belly and I've done my deep dive into it, I can't find no on-chain proof that these guys supposedly have tokenized $1 billion, a fucking $1 billion. That's the most in the crypto space. That's probably more than all the RWA projects combined. These fuckers have tokenized more than the entire RWA space. But I couldn't find no proof of them actually showing evidence of this tokenization. So bullshit. So you have to be very careful. This was a project that I was interested at one point, but once I asked for the on-chain proof, there was nothing to be shown. I mean, the reality is, look, you can see red flags. You shouldn't ignore them. This token, despite having, billions of dollars or $1 billion tokenized, Australian government backing them, everything was going for them. Why could they only launch on Mexi? How does that make sense? Where's the Binance? This launched at very high market cap. Where's the tier 2 exchanges? Why did you only launch on Mexi? It could have just been all lies. It could have just been lies, and they could only afford to pay a Mexi listing. So it's very, very weird. When you start seeing red flags like that, I tend to stay away. Another weird project is TARS. And a lot of people like this project because they paid a lot of influencers. But the reality with TARS is they scammed all the early investors. When I say do not ignore red flags from a project, OM hopefully woke everyone up. Don't ignore red flags from a project, because even if their fucking team is doxxed, if they're doing shady stuff, they could just pull the trigger anytime and say it was a liquidation. They could just lie, because once you move the tokens to the exchange will not disclose what you done with your purchases or what the fuck you done with your orders, because that's what a centralized exchange is. They probably paid the centralized exchanges not to fucking make the data available. You can do it on the DEX. Obviously, everything's proven on the blockchain, but you don't know how much they sold, how much they clipped in one go. No one knows. So when these tokens start moving tokens to Binance or Coinbase or OKX or whichever exchange, it's a red flag. So you have to be very careful. That's why I like my projects, because I can sleep okay knowing that, despite if all goes down 5-10%, I know it's not going to rock pool, because the team is very, very, you can tell they're not going to rock pool based on all the stuff they do. They're continuously developing, no red flags ever from the team, no bad history, including Sensei, including all my projects. I do very deep dives. Even Tectum, despite how shit it has performed, is very unlikely to rock pool. It's just unlikely to cause a night. There was a lot of team drama in Tectum, which caused the dump, because a lot of people were leaving, and obviously they held a certain supply of the tokens. They were dumping that token on chain. It wasn't the CEO; it was the people that was leaving the team. So stuff like that can cause issues in the token. That's why having a productive team that can get along with each other plays a massive role. Look at Gala. Gala is another prime example. It done very well. They probably made hundreds of millions. The fucking two CEOs, and then this cycle, because it wasn't just doing that well. Guess what happened? They started suing each other, and the project dumped. And then now Gala has not done anything for the past. No one even talks about Gala anymore. The team is the project itself. Crypto for life. Jason, good to see you, bro. Trust, good to see you as well. When you're making, I made a replica. I have to get the paid version because the normal version is shit. Market will get fatigued with tariff shit. They won't care as much. Yeah, you can tell they don't care anymore. When China increased the tariffs from 80% to 100 something percent, the market didn't give a shit. It just pumped because people get bored of the tariffs. It's like eventually what will happen is half of the countries will side with America, some countries will side with China, and people that it will just become the norm. But if a majority of the countries make deals and two countries is going back and forth, no one gives a shit because they would just go outsource specific things from elsewhere. And Trump did come out. He said that iPhones and specific products were exempted from the tariffs. So iPhones and chips and all this stuff were exempted, and that made the market rally because those are the most important things. Like Trump is not stupid; he knows they can't make iPhones in the US, so then they just exempted it from the tariffs. They would tariff specific things basically. Do I think G Swift is a good gaming pick? I think G Swift is a good gaming pick. Yes, I actually hold some G Swift as a meme bag. Do you think that alt burn will voted on will push price market? I think the alt burn will make alt token a lot more attractive in general, and I do think it will push the price up as well. Because if you look at circulating supply, if that token, it depends because those tokens are not in circulation, meaning that it won't have an immediate effect on the actual price itself. However, it will bring a lot more attraction to the project based on the market cap to FDV value. If you knock 40% of this off, or let's say you knock 30 million off this FDV and it's like 20 million to 50 million, it looks a lot more attractive than 20 million to 100 million. That's a massive difference. And people oftentimes, retail investors, look into this. So that 40% burn will affect the price. It's like a sentiment boost. More and more people will look into it and say, "Whoa, that's a massive burn, bullish for the project." So yes, it will affect the price. I don't know when they're going to announce it. Look, the thing with all is they don't give a shit because they develop all the time. They will just release fucking crazy bullish news in like the most bearish market times because they just continuously bring in something new. Like for example, today, if you look at the Human AI Alliance, they've just formed a new partnership. They just had a marketing director or like a marketing with these guys over here, Solus Group. These guys are pretty well known in the industry for promotion. So, the human AI stuff is going to bring a lot more on-chain activity and, a lot of attention to alt itself because everything's going to be done on the alt token. Everything's going to be done through the alt token. Can Sensei give us 100x? I mean, the reality is it could, but are you that stupid to hold a token all the way to 100x, bro? Like the reality is no one's going to do that. If you put 5k, 10k in the token and you make like a 100k or 150k, are you really going to hold to the fucking 500k? The reality is you're not. You're going to take your money and move on because, like I said, the narratives only last a month and a half. Once the narratives is gone, you have to exit the position or at least leave a moon bag. You have to. There's no other option because the narrative will change to something else and the money will flow to that new narrative. We've seen it. Look what happened to gaming projects. Some gaming projects decided to run throughout the cycle. Very few, but a lot of them, once the gaming hype died, they started to sell off. So, once gaming died and we went to AI, most people were selling their gaming coins and rotating it into the AI, which was the current narrative. So that's what you should do. Don't hold the token to 100x. This is not the bear market anymore. You're coming towards the end of the cycle. We got like maybe 4 to 6 months left before, or 7 months, whatever, before the cycle's done. So don't sit here today and expect the 50 to 100x's unless you're buying some micro cap DJ coin. All it needs is 50 million to do 100x. Something like Immunity, which only needs 20 million market cap to do 100x. Stuff like that will do 100x, but something that's, for example, for this to go to 1.6 billion is very unlikely in one cycle, in the space of a few months. It's possible, but it's unlikely. So you're not going to get 100x with all. But what you're going to get is a 20, a 30x, good enough, I think. So you don't focus on too much getting the fucking 100x's. Or, Sensei could do 100x from now to the next cycle. That's why you leave a moon bag. Same thing with all. Some of these projects will do really well, but also hold up well for the bear market because they continuously develop. More new investors will come and buy it because it's not, bear markets don't work like this where it goes up and comes straight down in one line like did, Mantra did. It will go slowly go down like this. In between, you'll get wicks, people buy, go down, wicks, buy. That's how it works. So, but then you should only leave a meme back. That's the reality. Don't wait for 100x, bro. That's probably the smartest thing you can do is never wait for 100x this late in the cycle. You can get 100x when, in the bear market because everything's really cheap. Few million, 100k, 200k market cap. You're not going to get it this late in the cycle. 10 to 15x, 100%, my friend. Yes. That's what you should be aiming, 10 to 15x, because look, this is how the cycle is going to work. We're going to have a very good pump once QT ends. We will have good money coming in because the global liquidity is pumping. A lot of these other central banks are injecting money in the system. China is specifically just because they're going deflationary. A lot of these guys are decreasing the interest rates, which obviously means more liquidity, more borrowing, more spending. And then at the same time, once the recession hits and you've made 10 to 15x your money, you can start buying, in that fucking recession and get everything really, really cheap. And in 1 year, a year and a half, you can make 100x, 50x, 30x your money. That's that simple. In a bear market, you buy when everything's fucking dead and everyone's scared crypto's going to die. That's when you buy because the reality is crypto's never going to die anymore. Most projects will die. Bitcoin's never going to die again. Ethereum is very unlikely to die. Solana is not going to die. They will be around for at least another couple of cycles. So you buy, you patiently wait for a year. In that year, you can make 100x. That's exactly what I done. I bought a bunch in December when the FTX happened because everyone was calling for the end of crypto. It only makes sense you buy when everyone's shit in the bed. Just like you buy now when everyone's shit in the bed. Even a couple of weeks ago, you buy then. And then when the liquidity returns back into the markets, which it will, people will not be risk off forever because risk off means you're barely making any money. People like to get risk on because that's where they make the money. But it's all about valuation. That's what the market's about. If people don't like Bitcoin at fucking, at 90k, they won't buy it. And when they won't buy it and they value Bitcoin at 70k because this is where all the liquidity was sitting, as soon as we hit these liquidities, market bounces. This is where the market feels that is worth buying Bitcoin. They wasn't buying it up here. This was retail. They wasn't buying it over here. Somewhere they might trade it. But the real long-term value for crypto is over here. This is what people want to buy Bitcoin. Some people want to buy it slightly lower, but that's unlikely. It could happen, but it's unlikely at the moment. That's where it's all about perception of value. If Bitcoin is at 100K and the whales don't want to buy it there because it's overvalued, then it's unlikely to keep going higher. Then the retail is going to push it higher because they just come in at any time thinking Bitcoin's only going to go up because it's gone up for the past 5 months. It doesn't work like that. Same thing with S&P. Warren Buffett sold all the Magnificent Seven because he felt it was overvalued. He sold it time ago. Everyone laughed at him because it went up another fucking 3%, whatever. Who gives a shit? But the reality is, look what happened afterwards. He had billions of dollars of cash sitting on the side, and now he could buy them back. But because of the AI hype, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, all of these companies were extremely overvalued. And then now, because they've come down so much, there's a lot more value to them to buy now, rather than 4, 5, 6 months ago. Cool guy, enjoy, my friend. Have a good day, buddy. Fantastic, fantastic. All good. Smash the like, guys. I don't know why we can't get to 100 like on these live streams. It's crazy. You think the next breakout of BTC alt season will start, or are we going to rally like December and also go down again? I don't think so, no, because look, the problem with people is they have this misconception that the markets are always going to play out the same. It doesn't work like that. For the last, since 2020, let's say from 2015, 2016, 2017 cycle, people finally got used to the 4-year cycle. And this time it didn't work out. The 4-year cycle didn't come into play. So people spend years and years learning the 4-year cycles. And then because this was a business cycle, everything changed. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a business cycle next cycle. It doesn't mean that. If we could just go back to the normal 4-year cycle, so people, this is what a lot of people do, is they think every cycle is going to play out the same. So because they thought the 4-year cycle is going to play out the same this time, they kept buying. But the reality was we're in a business cycle. Monetary policy plays a massive role in a business cycle, but we don't get business cycles every fucking year. It comes every decade. The last time we had a business cycle where we ended up in a recession was in the 2008, 2009 crisis. That was the last time. And then we went into a decade of bull market where everything was pretty much going up only, with dips for like a year or half a year or whatever, but then they continuously went higher. You get a business cycle once a decade. The next time we'll get it will be a very long time away, but we're going to get a massive crash after this. The system will reset. Maybe a new fucking system will come out. We don't know at the moment, but the fiat system is designed for this to happen. So this is why I say everything is happening by design. We're going to go into one more phase where the market is going to be really, really bullish. Everyone's going to make plenty of money. Some people cash out, most won't. And then we're going to have a massive crash, go into a bear market again, but it will be a recessionary crash that could last a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. But you have, plenty of time to buy. And then the Fed, I think throughout that bear market, the Fed will start to inject money into the system. They'll start QE, but they won't do a COVID style QE where they will inject 10 to 20 trillion in one go. They'll do small QEs. They might do 2 trillion here, 3 trillion here, because we are going to go deflationary. Recessions always cause deflation, very obvious. And then, the dollar is going to obviously get fucking destroyed. It's going to be undervalued. They're going to inject money, save the dollar, but they won't be able to. And then at some point, once the Fed realizes that we can't have these little QEs, 2 to 3 trillion, it's not going to work, they're going to do another COVID style QE. They're going to print 10 to 20 trillion in one go, and you can turn your brain off, turn into a retard again, and buy anything on the market, and you will make at least a 5 to 10x. So, like I said, this is what I think is going to happen in the market. It's very obvious. They done this in 2008, but I think the last time they obviously printed their way out, but they didn't mass QE. This time, I think they're going to do small amounts. We're going to have pumps in the market when those QE gets injected. People are going to realize it's not enough. We need a lot more QE. They're going to come back and do it again. And then once they realize that these small QEs is not going to be enough, they're going to inject stupid amounts of money. You can go buy any asset. Could be Bitcoin, could be any coin on the market that has survived the bear market, and you will make stupid amounts of money. That's how the markets works. You just have to survive long enough and get out, at least take profits enough to have money on the side to buy during the dips. That's why I always tell people, because I've been in so many cycles, I've realized throughout the bull market, you're going to get these crazy dumps. I always say, always have cash on the side. If you're on 100% in the market, you take profits and have cash on the side, 10, 15, 20% around those regions. Nothing can go up forever. Nothing can go down forever. When Bitcoin was fucking down at 74K, I kept telling people buy because it will bounce. It will bounce. You can trade it. You know, the last time I streamed, I told you guys to trade Ondo and Sui. Ondo pumped 30% a few days after because we came down, hit a double bottom, and then guess what? We rallied. You know, we was up here. We had a nice little rally at 80K because Trump came out and released some bullish news. Then we dumped back down because of the China increased tariffs, but it was a double bottom. And then look how we just rallied, and Ondo got listed on Binance, went almost to $1. You could have got it at 60, made a decent amount of money. And the thing is, you can go heavy on these. You could put 10K, 5K, and you know, that's good work for a few days. Trade the markets now. Have your long-term bags, but trade. There's very few coins, very good coins that you can trade. I named them on the last stream. Red Belly has it's like a ghost town now. Exactly. Tectum is shit, but not a rock pool. Tectum is far. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's shit because of the team, but it's not a rock pool. If they were going to rock pool, they would have already done it now. That's the difference. Hit the likes, guys. I would appreciate that a lot. Merkel, good to see you, bro. I didn't even see you. Look, Trump has a very specific plan. I've explained this plan a million times. The reason he backed off on the tariffs was very simple, very, very simple. It's because of the 10 years. This is all, this is the main reason why Trump came out and started to take back the tariffs, because the 10-year kept going higher, which means all these big countries or whatever country it was, they were selling the bonds. And when the bond goes up, these flies back up. Trump cannot refinance the debt, the 30, 40 trillion, 20 trillion debt, whatever the fuck it is. They can't refinance it at a cheap price. So what his plan was to crash the interest rates, the 10-year rates, bring it down, and then refinance the debt as cheap as possible, which will save them $100 to $400 billion. That's how much you would have saved them, just refinancing cheaper. And then what happened was they started going toe-to-toe with China, and China holds the second biggest amount of the bonds, of the US bonds. They started selling it on the market, and when they sell it, this goes up. No one was willing to buy the bonds of the US because they went into the bullying tactic of bullying all these countries. No one's willing to buy it. Japan is the biggest holder, China is the second. When they start dumping your bonds, guess what happens? It goes up, they can't refinance the debt, and then Trump laid off on the tariffs. He let the market breathe because he needs this to come down. This is what tells you if interest rates are coming or not. If interest rates are coming, this goes down because people lock in the yield. That's how it works. People hedge themselves. But when this goes up, it means people are selling the bonds. And when this goes up in an aggressive manner, it means people are getting risk off. It means that people are selling the US bond because the US is forecasted to go into a recession, which it was. And the reason this going up, because what these tariffs do is they make the recession chances go up significantly, because you put all this pressure on these on these companies, and these companies have to pay 5 times more than they did a few weeks ago. Then they're going to have to start laying people off to counter some of the cost. That's how it works. That's why tariffs are recessionary. People say, oh, tariffs are inflationary. It makes inflation go up. In reality, it's deflationary, because no one's forcing these guys to buy any of this stuff. You don't have to buy it. If you don't have to buy it, inflation, even the price goes up, you don't have to buy it. And when you don't buy it, GDP goes down, economy slows down, people start laying off because they have to pay way more for these products and exports and imports. They start getting rid of people. And when unemployment goes up, you get a recession. And then when recessions happen, inflation goes deflationary. That's how it is. Trump doing everything but midterms. Yeah, he is. I mean, Trump wants to do everything. He wants to basically end his term on a very positive note. So what he's doing now is causing a crash now, So at the later stage of his term, he will go when the market's in peak I can't even say the word mania phase. Euphoria. Fuck no. I'm autistic or something, bruv. Shallow, good to see you, bro. How are you doing? Jay, good to see you as well, buddy. What do I think about Super G? Super is an interesting one because it is a layer one oracle, and I do think oracles are very good for the market. We do need more oracles. However, the reason Super has decided not to do so well is very simple. It's because of the vested schedule. All these tokens, I tell people 100 times, a project will come out, it will rally because of FOMO or hype or whatever, and then it will just dump back down. This is what happens to every project. I tell people all the time, right? If you're gonna buy a project that comes out, buy it. When it does this pump, make sure you sell all your bags because the likely chances, once these guys that unlock it all the time, when they're gonna get it a lot cheaper than the launch price. So when it goes up 5 to 6x, like it did here, 5x, these guys are up 20, 30x. They're going to dump the tokens hard and then don't become a bag holder on little wigs FOMOing in, because the reality is, as long as the market gets bearish, you don't buy projects that are new to the markets because they're always going to dump. Let them stabilize and then buy. This looks like it's stabilized for a bit, but it's still below seed prices, private prices. You want to get them as close as seed and private, because you might go down an extra 10-15%. Who gives a shit? You DCA, right? But the thing is, you don't buy when the early investors are up 10, 15, 20x, because the reality is it will always come down there at some point. I tell people the same thing with TARS. TARS early investors are up huge amounts, but the reason TARS did not basically dump, but it just consolidated for so long, is because all the early investors got scammed. None of them got their tokens. They gave the money, but they got scammed. And then guess what happens when they spend paying fucking hundreds of grands to all these influencers? They have to make that money back, and they do it by selling the token, because they're not making no money off their products. What the fuck do they even do? They don't have no real product. They're not like all making $10-20 million a year profits, probably even more now, because there was 10 to 20 million was last year. Fuck knows what they're making now. They're probably making 20 to 30 right now with the data hub stuff. Can you suggest for India markets? What does that mean, bro? What does that mean? Suggest for India market? I haven't looked into the India market. I don't look into Indian stocks, my friend. You only need 10x to make yeah, exactly. That's exactly true, PA. You only need the 10x now. You got a 10k. You can make a 10x now, 100k. And in the bear market, you can make a fucking 30, 40x and make 3-4 million. Getting rich does not have to happen in 1 year. The reality is, let's be honest, right? In 1 year, if you can make a 10x your investment, and let's say you got 10k or 100k, the reality is, in a normal working job, that will take you at least 4, 5, 6, 7 years for you to save up 100k. That's the reality. You can make that in a year, sitting on your ass, just holding your bags, looking to good projects, and make the money that way. Or you can go fucking work every single day for your life, 5 days a week, 40 hours, 50 hours, just to make that in 5 to 6 years. Some people will take longer because of, it's all about buying the correct projects and just being patient. It's all about following the liquidity market. Once the liquidity hits the market, everything will pump. Even shit will pump. That's all it's all about. We've spent 4 years of the market in QT. Once QT ends, people will get risk on. People will start looking to buy, riskier assets for more money. That's what QT ending does. The Fed is not taking money out of the system anymore. In fact, they'll probably find ways to do stealth QE, which they've done recently of $2 trillion. So, from various stealth QE methods they do, and they will find ways to inject money. The Fed has already said, over here when I showed you guys, where is it gone? The Fed they have tools to provide liquidity for the markets. They just won't announce it. You just won't know it's happening, but it happens in the background. And they've done that with $2 trillion recently. And that's why the market stabilized. And in fact, we're pumping. It's not because of fucking Trump coming out and stopping tariffs. Yes, that causes retail to FOMO in. But the reality is, stealth QE will always happen in the background when the market gets a bit too shaky. They just don't announce it. No, most of the time, two narratives at the same time will happen. It won't happen. It's very unlikely. So, I mean, if you're looking to buy some very good RWA coins, I can give you guys a few, right? We'll go over some quick projects. Well, obviously, you guys know about Or, Sensei, Nai. These are my favorite AI projects currently. Just because they don't have a lot of dilution. This project, Nai, has no unlocks till November. So there's no tokens that's going to come into circulation. The market cap's not going to go up crazily for the next, basically for the remainder of the cycle. So you don't have to worry about early investors dumping the tokens because they've done that months ago. All the early token holders got the tokens and they dumped. Some of them held whatever, the market now for the next till November. There's no unlocks. And the narrative is really, really strong. It's a layer one that solved the data problem within AI. And it's a layer one, the mainnet is coming live in Q2 in the next couple of months. The mainnet will be live, which means, once the mainnet is live, you're going to see a lot more on-chain activity, and you're going to start seeing, you guys can actually then start making money with this project. They're going to have a launchpad coming out. It's a very good project. The ecosystem is huge. You've got some of the biggest companies behind this project: Fetch AI Foundation, Filecoin, AFA, Ionet, all of these companies, a bunch of Web2 companies that they're in contract with. They're going to announce that very soon as well. So major data companies. And then if you look into the RWA space, these are by far the best RWA coin. RWA, when it comes to specifically for retail, Art Trade is the best, in my opinion. You guys can go buy art, Rolexes, specific things. These guys will tokenize anything pretty much. They'll bring it on chain. They'll give it to you on a cheaper price, 10 to 40% cheaper if you hold and stake the Art Trade token. That's good token utility and incentivizes people to stake. And when people stake, the token becomes more stable and has a chance to pump. That's why staking is important, and it provides liquidity as well for the token. So this is a very, very good project. It's on Solana. Everybody likes Solana because that's where all the liquidity is. Once Solana starts doing well, the ecosystem will follow. And this is the only RWA project that's actually good on Solana. So it's like the main one, in my opinion. And when the market gets bullish, this will always pump. We got bullish. This pumped like 7x from the lows. This is a fundamentally very strong project. Very low in market cap. You don't have to worry about dilution. That's the thing. There's no dilution. There's no one to dump on you. This is pretty much all the tokens in circulation. There will be no more. They have a buyback and burn mechanism as well. I think they burned like 4-5% of the supply a few months ago. They're going to continuously do this. So it's a very, very fundamentally strong project. Prop-base is another one. When it comes to real estate RWA, Prop-base is by far the best. $10 million in market cap. They've recently made a post. I should start talking about the developments of some of these projects, but these guys made a post a few days ago. They've revamped everything in terms of the vesting schedule. The vesting schedule now has been extended from, I don't know how many years it was, but it's been extended to 8 years now. So the dilution is going to be very slow and very minimum. There's not going to be heavy unlocks for years and years and years. We already holding this for the next 4 to 6 months. The next 4 to 6 months, there's fuck all dilution. It means fuck all tokens are hitting the market, no pressure, and that's why this project is very bullish. They've also expanded into DeFi AI, and they're going to be releasing a new property very soon. But there's a lot to look forward to this project. Global compliance section, whatever that is, a tokenization process, specific allocation unlocks tied to performance-based price targets first. This is so the token, the only time they'll unlock is if the project is doing well. How good is that? That's like, this is what I like about this project, because annual inflation is 8.2%, and they will only unlock if the token hits a certain price target. This is what CZ was talking about at one point for projects to do this, and these guys have implemented it. Extended vesting schedule, 8 years now. Select based on price performance. So if the price is not doing well, they simply won't unlock. So 75% for the community and 25% for core contributors. Those are the people that stake in, whatever, pretty much. It's a very, very bullish in my opinion. And then the last one is Bricken. Bricken became the main tokenizer for the BNB chain. On that news, it obviously pumped massively. But this is one of those projects, in my opinion, has held up fairly well. I mean, that chart looks pretty decent. If you got in the lows here, you would still pretty much be in profits, or if not break even. So that's, it's been holding up very well. They've just had a new wave of funding, which means the team has more money to develop the project. They can expand the team. They can get more exchange listings. They can do whatever. But these tokens are not going to hit the markets for years. But they've just had a fresh new wave of funding round. And, VCs come into a project, they will pump this at some point. And that's why new funding rounds are very important for projects. The VCs come in, they inject 100K, 50K, the price goes up, retail FOMO's in. All of these pumps that you get randomly are not caused by retail, unless it's a bullish news. They're caused by VCs. VCs can move the projects. Retail cannot. So these are my 3 best RWA coins. Obviously, I like Rio as well. Rio is also good, but this is one of the best projects to trade, in my opinion. One of the best projects. When market goes to shits, it will dump and it will just recover very quick. You can easily make 40, 50% on every dump. And as soon as the market recovers, Bitcoin recovers a few grand, this will go up 20, 30%. Very positive, But look, this is one of the most volatile assets in the RWA space because very simple, 90% is staked and only 10% is in circulation, which means the only 10% gets traded, which means when the price gets bearish, it will dump aggressively. And when the market gets bullish, it will pump aggressively. That's how real is. But they are releasing the districts, which is some AI metaverse bullshit where you can buy land on in this metaverse world they're building, which is, in my opinion, one of the most retarded things ever. We've seen this plenty of time for the last couple of years, 4 years, and it's just none of this done well. But the only benefit is for every building or every district that gets bought, a bunch of real tokens get burnt. So from that 10% that's in circulation, maybe 2 to 3% will get burnt, which means this is going to become even more volatile, which means when the market gets bullish again, this is likely to go up very aggressively. Very aggressively. And the vesting schedule is really good because the remaining of the tokens will come into circulation over 35 years. Most of us are not going to be in crypto for 35 years or even be alive in 35 years to see that dilution. Cap, then rotate to lower cap. You could do that, but it's like the difference is the way I look at it is like if Ondo goes up 5 to 10x, a lot of these RWA coins are going to go up fucking 20 to 30x. So once your Ondo does a 5 to 10x, you're going to be rotating to these low caps too late. Because the thing is, Ondo will only pump when the RWA narrative pumps and everything pumps together. So I don't really like the idea of buying large caps now and then rotating it into low caps. Like I said, by the time the high caps pump, the low caps will pump with it. So you're only going to miss out fucking 10, 20x already. If a coin does a 20x and you've already missed a 2x, you just missed the 10x pretty much. So it's not really worth taking that risk, especially this late in the cycle. You could have done it 4 or 5 months ago. It would have been okay. Your portfolio would have been down a little bit less. But when the market gets bullish again, you're also going to make less money. Wa alaikum salam, brother. How are you doing? Overkill, good to see you, buddy. Is the best crypto YouTuber. Thank you very much to me, bro. I appreciate that. Which doesn't show retarded memes, unlike fucking. Oh, wa alaikum salam, bro. Is the current price project you think can move ADA Soul like 2021? Which project would you retail favorite? I think retail favorite is always going to be Solana, just because of the meme coins. I don't really think ADA will have the same buzz as it did before. A lot of people were expecting Casper to do that bullshit. I don't think Casper is going to do that either because this is boring, bro. Casper's too boring. People like meme coin shit. I don't think Solana will ever do the same numbers again just because of how much dilution is coming into play. However, There's going to be one chain that's going to surprise all of us. I don't know which one it is. It could be Sui, it could be C, it could be Injective, it could be any of these coins. It's going to be hard to predict which one is going to be, in my opinion. It's going to be, you have to look at the TVL, you have to look at on-chain data, or see which one's growing the best, because that's where all the VCs are going to go to. C is a good one. Injective on-chain data has done really well recently because they've expanded to RWA. DeFi lift has been taken, so Trump actually got rid of the ban on DeFi. So DeFi is legal now. That should bring DeFi back. So that could bring Ethereum back as well. Boys, smash the like button, bro. How are we only on 68 likes? It only takes a few seconds. It does help me out a lot. It pushes me in the algorithms. I would appreciate it if you guys just smash the like. Let's get to at least 100 likes. That would be very good. What the fuck is 30% on Ondo with spoil for It's just quick time trade. Look, the quick trades, because you can build your USDT bag, and what I do is I make these profits on these trades, and then I use my profits to add to my long-term bags. That's what you should do. If you don't have USDT on the side ready to buy, get some USDT, trade, build your USDT position, and then use that profit to add to your long-term bags. That way you're building free bags pretty much just by, because the market is not going anywhere, at least for another, and I'll say at least till May. So then throughout that time, just trade and use your profits, add to your long-term bags. Everything's at pretty much at the bottom. The problem is look, this is what happens to a lot of people, and this is how you get caught out, right? Everyone looks on the fucking 1 hour, 2 hour time frame with a 2 hour chart, and they think, oh, fucking Relio went down to 12 cents. I gotta wait for 12 cents. They don't look on the fucking daily chart and they realize Relio is fucking down stupid amounts. Look how much is down. If this goes even to $2 or $2.50, does it matter if you got in at 12 cents or 15 cents or 18 cents? It does not matter. So don't be too picky. By being too picky, you're going to miss the boat when the market gets bullish again, which I think it will after the BOJ decision, which is going to be at the end of the month. And once the BOJ is done, which will normally mark the bottom, if they that's only if they increase the interest rates. If they don't, the market will just continue to rally, because we are getting close to following global liquidity now, which is continuously going higher. It's actually reached a new all-time high, and that is simply because of how weak the dollar is at the moment. The dollar is already broken this current support. It'll probably come back down to at least 94. Hopefully it'll come down even lower, but the dollar is looking very weak right now. Should we at least DCA 50% of remaining USDT for like same projects? Like, oh yes, of course. Some of these projects are stupid discounts, and they've already bottomed. If not, they're basically at the bottom. AI takes selling pressure on chain. Is still some selling pressure. So unless that slows down, I don't know where the fuck this selling pressure is coming from. It's coming from investors losing hope on this project. But let this stabilize for another week. After if you hold these levels for a week, like I said, I always tell people this, right? You'd rather catch something 10, 15% higher than try to catch a falling knife. It's stupid, because you might think this is crazy prices. Everyone thought 6 cents was crazy prices. Everyone thought 3 cents were crazy prices. It just continued to a lower. So this is a falling knife. You have to wait for it to stabilize. And then once it stabilizes for a bit, you can start to buy. Or is or is different, because or has held up really well, and you can never go wrong buying or any of these projects because it's never seen a bull run. Or has never seen a bull run, so you have to understand, because it's never seen a bull run, we don't know how well this is going to perform. But with the development they're doing and all these big institutional partnerships they have, is at least going to do at least 20x from here, in my opinion, at least. So it makes sense to buy it. $16 million in market cap, whether it goes to 16, 15 and a half, does it really matter? It doesn't really, in my opinion. Because you have to zoom out and think for the long term, like it's going to do really well. Japan dumps likely. What's the latest? Yeah, so Japan will know on the 16th or the 18th of this month. We won't know now, but towards the end, where is it? Let me go up. There, we'll know here. Look, on the 18th at 12:30 a.m. fucking a.m. we're gonna know what the inflation numbers coming in. At the moment, a few days ago, go look on my last stream. It was forecasted 4.2%. It's now forecasted 3.7%, which means if it comes in at 3.7%, it's very unlikely that the Bank of Japan will increase their interest rates, because they said if it continues to go higher, then they will intervene. However, if it's coming in the exact same as the previous month, then they have no reason to intervene, because the currency is doing well against the dollar, so they don't need to intervene. So at the moment, it's looking unlikely, my friend. That's what my base case is. It's looking unlikely. How do you feel about ICE Open Network? So ICE is a good project as a layer one, but they tried to release their mainnet and it did not go well, and because of that flop on the mainnet, it looks like it's not doing that well. It looks like what the fuck did I just type in mainnet? Let's go on ICE. Yeah, because of that, look at this spike on the mainnet flopped, and it just came back down. But I don't think it's a bad project though overall. The community partnered with these guys recently, so it's not a bad project. I don't think it's that bad, but I just don't think layer ones is just going to be the one this cycle. Just have one layer one in your portfolio, and just pray it does well. That's probably the best thing you can do. But yeah, I mean, Sensei is doing very well recently as well. Doing very well. Continuous updates, more features come in. It's been in a steady uptrend the last 7 days. Steady uptrend. If the BOJ drop happens, will it have the same impact? No, I don't think so, Khalid, because the reason that the August one was more brutal than any other one was very simply because it was forecasted to go up 0.25, but they actually increased it 0.35 or some stupid shit like that. So that they increased it higher than what people were predicting, and because of that, it caused a little bit of a panic on the carry trade, and it unwinded a lot harder than it should have. That's the thing, because it was forecasted to still increase, but the increase was only 0.25% or 0.2%, but they increased it by 0.35. And like I said, the effect would only be really massive, like August one, is if they increase more than the market is pricing in, or the market is projecting. If the market is projecting 0.5 and it comes in the exact same 0.5, then it will dump, of course, because the carry trade will still unwind, but it won't be as massive as the August one. The August one was a surprise to everyone. That's why, my friend. Bricken is a good project indeed. Bricken is a very good project. NAI have unlocks in 2 days, every month 0.4%. No, they don't, my friend. You need to go look at NAI on the what's it called? You don't need to look at it on here, because this is not updated. The one on coin market cap, and I don't like going over this a million times, because I've shown the vesting for this at least 100 times now, but this has not been updated. So you might think there's unlocks every day, but the reality is there's no unlocks for a very long time. They've locked the tokens. Most of the early investors are out. The only people I can imagine is unlocking maybe ecosystem, and that's pretty much it. Because all the seed, the team has locked up the tokens for a little bit longer as well. The seed, the public, the stakers, and all these other people, their tokens have been fully diluted. That's why they made a proposal to either burn 400 million tokens, which is basically all the unlocks and stuff. Because what happened was with NAI is all the early investors had these two options, right? They had either the chance to unlock all their tokens, but 30 or 40% of some shit will get burnt, and the rest they can sell, or they can hold their tokens for another year and hope the project does well. Because the reason I've always been bullish on this project, but one of the main reasons, where's NAI gone? But one of the main reasons I did not ever buy this project was specifically because of the vesting schedule. The vesting schedule was terrible. I made a video on this ages ago, and I said do not buy until sometime September, October, because of the vesting schedule. And that was pretty much the bottom. September was the bottom, more or less. Well, is lower now, but not by much though. But like I said, this was pretty much the bottom, and the reason is because this was at seed price. So you buy it sometime near seed prices. That way, there's no one else to dump on you. Everyone else, and so the team realized that with this crazy unlock that's going to be happening every day, the token will never thrive. It will never do well because no one would invest into it based on the tokenomics aspect. So then what they did was they allowed the early investors to have two options. One was to unlock their tokens, for unlock all the tokens, but half of it will get burnt. So you only get access to half, or you can unlock the tokens for an extra year and then have the normal vesting schedule linear after the year. So some people chose to unlock it for another year. Some people chose to unlock all of it but burn 50%. So because of that burn, that 50% burn, they basically managed to rack up 400 million tokens, which they gave the community the chance to vote whether they'll burn the tokens or they'll just lock it up and use it for something later, either exchange listings, marketing, etc. So that was a smart thing. They decided to not to burn it and keep it for more exchange listings and for more marketing for other use cases. So that token's not going to come into circulation for another year. So that's what I mean when I say all the early investors are out. There's no unlocks for another year because all the early investors are out. Ecosystem, everything else has been paused till November. So when you're saying there's a 4% unlock, that's not true. This just hasn't been updated. That's why. That's why you're saying that. But if you just go on the Twitter and check all the updates on there, my friend, I'm just not going to waste my time going through it again. Actually, hold on. Is it this? There you go. Look. See, all the people have the options. All of these guys had the options to either lock up their lock remainder of the token, lock remaining token for an extra 12 months, and then it will be released, linearly or daily over the 12 months. So after the 12 months, everyone will get the tokens normal, or you can unlock a portion or all the remaining tokens agreeing to burn, I think it's 40, 30, 50% of the tokens. So, that's all you have to do, my friend. There he is. Look, seed guys would have to burn 61% of the tokens. Seed C2, 53%. Seed, whatever this fucking shit is, 50%, 53%. So between 50 to 60% of the tokens was going to get burnt. So half they'll unlock, half they're fucking burn, pretty much. So all the early investors are out now. This was months ago, my friend. The people that decided to unlock it for another year, they'll get their tokens at a later stage, sometime in November. Greed, good to see you, bro. I would recommend prop base over Rio. Yes, both of them are good. Like Rio and prop base, you can buy heavier in just because of the what's it called? The volume is pretty good. 4 million volume across multiple different exchanges, including a tier 1, kucoin another tier 2. So it has pretty good exchanges. Prop base is going to get more exchanges as well, but these guys also have some pretty good volume across the board. 2.5 million. That's pretty good for an RWA coin. For a low cap RWA, most RWA coins don't have a lot of volume just because the narrative is a bit early. But RWA is becoming a massive thing at the moment. Based on token use, etc., would you say props perform better in a bear market? Yes, I would say so. Yes, I would say so. Because in order for you to get access to the actual properties, you have to have a certain amount of prop-based stakes. So there's like a ranking system. You have the elite, the diamond, whatever the fuck the tiers are. But based on how much tokens you actually stake, you can get access to higher or more allocations in those properties. But look, you shouldn't hold any of them in the bear market regardless. But I think prop base will be around next cycle as well, 100%. How you say the 100x are not possible as a majority also? It is, but it all depends on how long we pump for, my friend. Because if a recession is looming, it's not that it's not possible. It is possible. It's just not smart to do it. Yes, most tokens are all-time low, but is it smart for you to hold for the 100x knowing a recession is looming over our heads. It's not. You'd rather get something, 20, 25x, 30x, something safe and actually make money rather than fucking round trip and get too greedy and wait for 100x and then just lose all your money again. That's the thing. That's the difference. Like, you have to be smart, because even if you make a 20 to 30x investment, that's fucking more than enough. You can do it again next cycle. You don't have to get rich in one cycle. It doesn't work like that. Most people don't, especially if it's your first cycle. If you walk away with money, you've done better than 99% of the people in crypto. That's a fact. You've done better than 99% of people if you walk away with money. Most people make money, then they invest, then they lose it again, then they make money again, and then they lose it again. The round trip, a lot of people round trip. That's the problem. Most people, when the market goes up, they can't sit on their hands. When the market is rallying, they have to FOMO in, and then they just get fucked later on when the market dumps. And then when it dumps, they don't have USDT to buy when you can make the crazy amount of money. But the reality is, at this stage of the cycle, is retarded of you to hold for the 100x's, even if it's possible. And if it's possible in crypto, but why would you hold for that long? It's stupid. You're gonna walk away with no money, and then you're gonna round trip, and then you might make money next cycle. But the reality is, don't round trip, make the same mistakes again, as most people did in March, and then some people did in December as well. But December we didn't really pump too much though. Pip, good to see you, buddy. Nia is a real retailer project for me. I agree with meme coins will be part of the bull run, especially on Solana. I agree. Nia is pretty good as well. Yes, I do like Nia. Minima is pretty good as well. NB actually. Minima is pretty good. AI Tech chart looks so horrible. Fuck me. It looks fucking disgusting, bro. It looks. The thing is like, it will hold okay at some point, and then it will rally, but it will just get sold off. So I've not been DCAing this shit for a long time because it is a falling knife. I don't like catching falling knives. I would rather buy something 10, 15%, 20% higher than think is the bottom and then for it to keep going lower. The most people round trip like that on Mavia. Everyone thought below $1 or $1 was crazy prices for Mavia, and then it went to 10 cents. It wasn't crazy prices, was it? When it went to 10 cents. So the reality is, this is how I DCA. I DCA $50, $100 here and there. And then when you start seeing some crazy crashes in the market, I might buy $1,000, I might buy $2,000. And then when I see some more crashes in the market, I'll increase my allocation as we go further down the line, because, all it takes is 2 weeks of bullish price action for the market to reverse. And a prime example of this is Mavia. Mavia dumped from Jan all the way to like March, but in the space of a week, it just gave all, just pumped and returned back to the fucking January time prices in the space of. So it basically outdone 2 to 3 months of price action in like a space of a couple of days. So that's why I say you DCA tiny amounts. When you see crashes, you buy more if you have conviction in a project. If you start to lose that conviction, then don't buy anymore. You will see that. Look, they go up with the markets anyways, but the reality is, until QT ends, which I think will happen in July, you're not going to see altcoins pump that much, especially low caps, because, like I said, at the moment, the last thing people want to do is buy low caps. Most people don't even want to buy in crypto in general. People don't even want to buy BTC that much. So until QT ends and Ethereum kicks some life back into it and dominance starts dropping, then everything will pump, my friend. But like I said, crypto works, the way the altcoin season works is you can wait years and years, and then in 2 months you can make the most stupid amounts of money in your whole life that in the space of 2 to 3 months. That's how it works. Most people don't make it to that end. What's your thoughts on XLM at these prices? I don't really like high caps, especially XLM though. XLM rolled off the back of of XRP, but this project is good. I just wouldn't touch it, my friend. I think this is just gonna round trip back down to I don't know. It probably will rally if the market gets bullish, but $7 billion in market cap. How much more do you expect this to do? I think I'll be happy if this does a 2x from here, to be honest, 2 to 3x. Really? Or is not Chinese project based in the US? No, my friend. The CEO of Or is a professor in one of the top universities in the US. It's not. They just have presence all over the world. They have a base. They have a headquarters in Switzerland, I think. They have a presence in Hong Kong, China, and then but most of the operations happen in the US. The project was developed in the US. They have 2 US patents, so it's not a Chinese project based in the US. It's a US project that expanded to China and Switzerland. So if you look at all, the CEO, like I said, is I think it's what fucking university is it? I don't know. I can't remember. But he's a professor in one of the top universities. That's why they've partnered with like all the universities in the US, the Harvards, the Cambridges, and all these other ones. Where is it, bro? Where's the patent? I can't really find it, but it's somewhere down here. They have 2 US patents for the proof of honesty for the nodes. Here, look. Is it here? Or is it here? No, there you go. Yeah. Or it's patented proof of honesty, whatever. So they've got 2 patents for their nodes, 2 US patents. But their nodes is growing though. It's growing rapidly. Soon it will be 80K. So it's very decentralized. Most projects cannot run this much nodes across the world, which is crazy, I think. So no, it's not a Chinese company, my friend. The CEO is Chinese, obviously, originally, but you don't become a professor in the US by becoming China, by being born in China, bro. You think that they will stop QT? I don't think they will stop in May. I think June or July is the most likely outcome. Checks, not a fan of. C-pool, I think C-pool is better than checks, but checks is weird because it's like just look at the volume to market cap ratio. It throws me off because there's something dodgy about this project. Just look at the market cap; it's like fucking 1%, 1% volume. Look how weird it is because when the market cap goes up, the volume goes up the exact same. So I think without the bots, fuck knows what this the actual thing is for this, the actual token utility, well, the actual volume, because majority of these projects are bullish. EU trade chief and US official meets to negotiate trade deal. So they're talking today right now. Anyways, I just don't like how high this is in market cap and how shit the trading volume is. They need to get a few more exchanges. The volume is terrible for the market cap. But at least the team's not doing dodgy stuff like fucking holding the price up. So it's down just like most of the projects. But I think this one's too shady. I personally would not put my money into this. That's just my opinion. I think Checks looks like a good project overall, but so did Mantra. Mantra looks like a phenomenal project, and look what happens. This one just I don't know. I have some weird feeling about this one. Just based off this, right? If you look at this, where is the block? So if you look at the Ethereum chain, right? Look at the Ethereum chain and look at the holders. The top holder, which holds $27 million, and it's not in a smart contract. So this is weird because this guy can do whatever he wants. He can dump tomorrow if he decides to. That's enough to rug the coin. There's no volume. So if someone tries to dump 27 million, at 2 million trading volume, it's going to get fucking raped. So that's why I don't trust this, just because it's just not in a smart contract. It's simple. Put in a smart contract. It looks like this is the vesting schedule or something. I'm not too sure. Null must be the market makers. Actually, it can't be the vesting schedule. But yeah, look, I don't like seeing stuff like this where one wallet holds a lot of the supply, 27 million, but it's not in a smart contract. It should be in a smart contract. I don't know why it's not. And then you go on the BNB chain. Look, the BNB chain is on smart contract. I don't get why they don't do that with Ethereum. So you look at the top wallet, it's in a smart contract and they hold 21% of the supply. But somehow the Ethereum one isn't. So yeah, that's why it throws me off on checks. C-pool's okay though. Hit the likes, guys. Come on, let's get to 100 likes. How many likes are we on? I don't even know. My impression on Home 3X is that it's very quiet and not much is happening. For example, we are Still waiting for the flex. Yeah, I agree with you, bro. It's a DJ coin, bro. I think like it was good at the time because it was a trade. And the reason it was only a trade back then was because the RWA was hot and people was looking for low cap RWA coins. So it made sense to buy it then, but now it's not a long term hold, bro. We made like a 7 to 8x on HTX. Should have got rid of it. Simple as that because it's a trade. It's DJ coin. No, hold on to the DGens. I made money on Lightning, took profits on it instantly, but I never held HTX myself though. But it looked like a decent RWA coin. Aerodome Finance is pretty good, yes. I hope we will get a rally like December before QT so I can rearrange. It's going to be hard for you to do that. Look, the market will move in narratives anyways. So when one narrative moves, take your money and move into something else and bring your averages down. That's what I would do. Thoughts on Plume? Plume's a good project, Myth. Very good project. I like Plume. Parcel in your top 5 RWA coin? Nope, I don't like Parcel. The reason I don't like Parcel is not because it's a terrible project, but the problem with Parcel is very, very simple. It had the anticipation of a tier 1 listing. You got the tier 1 listing, just fucking went to shits afterwards. So tier 1 listings is fuck all these days. The current market, no one gives a shit about tier 1 listings. They cause a short-term pump. It caused this pump right here, and then just went to shits. So the Coinbase listing does not mean anything. And another thing is the vesting schedule. Whether it's this month or next month, the unlocks are going to start. And 50% of the supply is held by early investors. Half of the supply of Parcel is held by early investors. These early investors don't give a shit about your tokens. They don't give a shit about the project. So when they get their tokens and they're in profits, they're going to keep dumping the shit out of it. And they get a forced retail to FOMO in, thinking it's a good time to buy. However, these early investors are going to fucking dump the shit out of this, in my opinion. They've raised $11 million as well. So I personally I wouldn't want to invest. Look, early investors, co-contributors, basically, they hold 49% of the supply. And they unlock in one day, actually. So does it look like this is a smart investment when these motherfuckers are getting to get their tokens every single day for the next 2 years? Absolutely not. This was a good project when it first came out because it made sense to buy it when it stabilized at a certain price because there's no unlocks. But now that unlocks are starting, why would you invest into it now when these motherfuckers hold 50% of the supply? So it's not really smart, in my opinion, my friend. I would stay away from this one. I've liked the project as in terms of a good RWA project in Solana. I just don't like the tokenomics. I mean, tokenomics play a massive role because the price won't go anywhere and it will just continue to dump on the unlocks. The first unlocks in one day, so I would avoid it. Heart is a good project overall. Good project overall. Anyways, what the fuck? It's been 1 hour 43 minutes. Yo, I didn't even realize I thought. Anyways, guys, that is time to wrap up this live stream. I didn't even know it was 1 hour 43 minutes. What the fuck? But I am gonna wrap it up now. Damn, I thought it was live for an hour, but not this long. Time goes quick. If you had to choose between one high cap, which one would it be? I'll probably go with Tower out of those lists. Either Tower and Injective. Those are the ones I like. Fetch has had his time, bro. They had the alliance. I wouldn't buy Fetch. No problem, Omar. Good to see everyone in the chat. Drop a like on your way out, guys. I appreciate all the support you guys have been showing the last, month, even though the market's been dead. So I appreciate every single one of you for the support. Drop a like I said. It's been good seeing all you guys. I come on here, help you guys answer your questions. But I am off now. 1 hour 45 minutes. That's a very long live stream. Appreciate all of you guys. I'll see you guys in the next few days. Most likely on Wednesday. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.